Bing, bada, bing, 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 bada, bing, bing, skibidi-bee-wop, nibidi-bidi-bidi-up, nibidi-bidi-up, nibidi-bidi-up, bing, bada, bing, bing, ding-ding, skibidi-bee-wop. So, I was just going to call this Orbs, Red Stars, the Supernatural, and psychic abilities. And then I thought, hey, don't do that. Like, that will just garner hits from people like me. And I'm just trying to subtly stay hidden from people like me, because the last guy, he and his girlfriend that saw orbs, they saw plural orbs, where I only saw one with my old girlfriend. They were surprised to find me. But then I was also watching this video about, consciousness as hallucination. Kind of, yeah, I've really been thinking about the idea of an instant karmic manifold of reality. You perpetuate something by stating it or thinking it, or doing it, and the world in modern media at least seems to echo the same concept. Like, I'll be listening to one video or some music, and a word will show up on another platform that is what another video just said simultaneously. So the synchronicity is like exacted. And I was thinking that some people have a different manifold, right? Like if you look at my top lame hand and my bottom hand, that's the manifold, that they're connected like reality, right? Even Langen argues this. Derrida, the kind of inclusiveness of life, the centering of what, how to resolve certain things, to have deduction implies that there's kind of an upper and lower limit of our understanding, and that limit in a manner is like a manifold. And so I was thinking that frequencies are kind of a collapsing of the manifold. You know what I mean? Like a coming together of the manifold, so that the reverberation between the top limit and the bottom limit is so severely close that what do you call it? That things seem or fall into synchronicities. And then I was thinking about all this, like, not Zig Ziglar stuff, but the think and grow rich type of attitude. Thinking not so much think and grow rich per se, but that whatever you think, you're the idea of, well, if you put it out there, it's going to come back. I shouldn't refer to it as a karma, but kind of an echo self-location. And anyway, and then all of this idea got obscured a little bit with some anti-natalism. So I sat there and I thought, anti-natalism is not just from people that are often discontented, but that they purposely, not unlike myself, but they purposely are either like super depressed, or they involve themselves in intoxications, lots of tobacco, or lots of negative stuff, and then I think, well, that's just going to reverberate karmically within their system, and then that will then function as a justifier as to what suffering is. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look, I'm suffering. See? hey, look, I live in a shit shack. Referring, of course, to Gary, right? Not that I was watching his videos, I was watching this other boy, oh boy, Amanda. She's putting on, Forever Will Film. She's putting on her yearly "Why Are You an Anti-natalist" contest, and so it's always a refresher. But it made me think, like, look, there's suffering. Watch me suffer, and boy, I have a relative, and I watched them suffer. Therefore, they suffered, I suffer. So they don't take on, they take on a naturalistic other minds attitude, and not like I live in a Matrix holodeck video game sort of thing. And I've come to less of a panpsychic solipsism sort of outlook, kind of tried to reground in the in the self as center, observing the world, and then going from there. Anyway, so that's what's on topic today. But I did think, oh yeah, Flying Spaghetti Monster, my red star. If you go to MikePhail.com and you look for my Allegory of an Archangel painting, you'll see the red star that looks like what I realize is that maybe even the concept of Flying Spaghetti Monster, whether it started out as a mere sarcasm or not, seems after years, I finally, instead of calling it a red electric jellyfish star, might as well just call it the Flying Spaghetti Monster, just except it wasn't flying so much as it was just hovering. But yeah, I was thinking about the the refractive karmic universe, and how if you grant yourself over to strict induction, where you allow your behavior to respond to inductive activity of association, then you can be you allow yourself the ability to bond with whatever is controlling the manifold, or the manifold itself, as if there's entities in there, such as the idea of, what do you call it? Like, we live in an aquarium universe of all sorts of different types of physical species, if you will, entities. I always have to harp on that, even years later. It's not a story I like to, it's not a story that I'm insistent on perpetuating. But I am finding interesting ties to it. When I found the couple that saw these orbs and how blown away they were by it, they moved it into some ancient love connection, which perhaps if I stayed with my girlfriend that I felt compelled to, I probably might have made those same attachments. But then, what do you call it? Oh yeah, and then I had this huge, a red star asphyxiation, red thing asphyxiation, a repulsion of anything red. Red became dark and evil and painful and ominous, an omen. And so there was this schizophrenic lady on a TED Talk, and she was talking about how they converted the TED Talk away from the actual platform of the TED Talk, away from red, because she's, like I was, paranoid of red things as omens, as evils, as something to reject, anything red, as if the color itself was emblematic of something, which to me, I still feel that way, but it's strictly more of a driving sensation. And now it's a get ahead of the red cars, racing thing. It's kind of fun. And yeah, but now things are functioning more in a calculus and more of a self-controlled environment. After years of experiencing what I think, or some people might just say I'm interpreting events that other people would think are arbitrary and not specific, not what do you they're happenings that happen in mostly the auditory field, that are indicators meaning I'm finding a pattern and I'm granting it an intelligibility, because that's part of the inductive process. First, you get a data set, a datum, and then well, at first you have to deduce that what it is something intelligent that is outside of you, that's beyond you, that's intersecting you or communicating with you directly. And then from that point, any other sounds that you want to grant over to the weather or to general physics or whatnot, even if you grant over the physics, you grant them over as if something behind the physics is controlling the physics relative to the individual mind, in this case, my mind. And so not only do I read patterns, but now I'm making an induction that my outside of possession, being possessed way back when, and earlier this year in California, this act of feeling like your mind is being overthrown, and it accepting an allowance of this interactive, quote unquote, communication with an outbound intelligence. Now general sets of audio data seem to take on. I'm using induction to see, to test, to see what's happening. But now I'm starting to realize that the idea of the manifold, and that the more I'm looking for it, to some extent, I'm going to get feedback from it. It's like trending. You join something, you join a club, you join a movement, you join a team, you join a trend of thinking, and then there has to be a reiteration. There has to be a furtherance of the trend, seemingly. I don't want to say there has to be. You can truncate this at any time, but otherwise I'm thinking there's this idea of a continuance that's a reiteration. The reiteration grants an identity to things. It grants a claim to things. And then the world starts feeding you exactly that reiteration. And it kind of comes from like an intelligent design idea, but it's not intelligent design that I'm describing per se. It's more like saying that the universe, on here, he was saying, well, we're indigenous to the planet. We're not like separate from the planet. Humans are natural. Got into some argument about what's natural and what's synthetic. And anyway, so I was just thinking about how this reiteratability and this further trending, it focuses, it kind of puts the universe in a motion, and that you can shift your motion, you can shift your direction, you can shift your topics just by reading a different topic or doing a different activity or trending a different thing and stopping the previous trend. And but anyway, the intelligent design comparison is more of a how to put it, that everything in your universe, right, is like a methodological naturalist would just kind of go, well, this is air and we breathe air, and this is the sun, and this is gravity, and everything's just kind of easy that way. But the fact that our consciousness, our embodied consciousness, most of the time, if you will, unless you have some sort of alerty, is within the self, but not in all cases. But the whole idea is that there's not like a vacuum pocket sphere, which I'm not certain, kind of like a high altitude, lesser density of air occurring at a lower density, some anomalous thing that could pass through and choke a bunch of people. Any more so than the Noah's flood coming to wipe out and drown people. Doesn't seem to be too extra common. But anyway, my notion is that the universe form fits specifically to absolutely everything. Certain people have a philosophy of hey, what is happening is exactly perfect for who you are right now, right? Like the universe is always exact to who you are. Now you can try to throw a wrench in it. You can do your best to try to do a workaround, throw in some masochism, break up the data set, try to invert it, convert it, distort it. But it seems as if no matter what you do, there's still enough air to breathe, right? Maybe it's toxic, maybe there's stuff in it, but there's something there. Anyway, okay, so I got that out of my system, and so with that, I think I'll continue my drawing adventure, and maybe some of my tremendously amazing amount of viewers that are watching me right now. Boy, I'm overwhelmed with all of the viewers out there that are decided to show up on this Saturday Mountain Standard Time and bless me with their presence. Oh yes, please, please, come right into the room. You know, what am I thinking about lately? Antinomy, the contradictions of not eschatology, but just regular belief. The contradictions in belief that yield a contradiction. It's very, still working on contradictions to some extent, to a large extent. Just trying to pull out to the extent that people sense contradictory things, and then they kind of just gloss over it. They don't want to linger on it. And the whole job is to linger on the contradiction. Just linger on the contradiction, will you already? Just do it, because they're all around, and we note them and avoid them and carry on with our regular day-to-day utilities of living. And it's like blinking. No one focuses on the inside of their eye while they're blinking. They don't make a big to-do in their day about the 1/7 of their existence found behind their eyelids. They don't talk about it. They only talk about what they're seeing when the eye's open. That's it, right? And the same thing with contradiction. It's like this blip that's constantly almost, it's like what a decision is the idea of there's just an active decision, but then there's sometimes this a contemplation about making a decision. When one is aware that they're making a decision, then they're like, the compare and contrast is to yield something that favors one over another, but in the favoring the other, they find out why it's lesser, and generally the lesser is because it's the most preferable outcome. If you think people are always striving towards that which is most preferable, instead of like having a goal where they're moving through all sorts of pain and suffering and other things, trying to get to an idealism. So they're contradicting their emotional and their physiological datum set to some sort of objective that is beyond good and evil, so to speak. And that's why I have this problem with the anti-natalists. Oh my God, the whole like life is suffering, it equates to suffering. It's like, no, that's motarded, and I don't say retard, motarded, mono-retarded. It's like a cyclops retard, like a retarded cyclops, thinking that life is just that. But the part of many decisions is accepting a sufferability on purpose in order to get to some other objective. And then because this is like collateral, the coefficient of the objective, if you will, they just they sum it up. Oh, life is suffering because I have this ideal over here. It's not making a baby, but it's something. Like in my case, it's the sufferability of this painting. Boy, this thing threw a wrench in my. This thing threw a little bit of a wrench in my style, but I took it on, and it's a job. Got to get it done, even if this last little girl has the longest arm of any known infant on the planet. Okay, so now I'm going to calm down, try to restructure my concatenated cadence. My concatenated cadence. Oh yeah, this A Bit of the Universe guy. He was fun. He made a comment on my last video, and he was fun because he said, I see a thousand, you know, he went over this whole thing like he's in a ship, like talking about grammars, like, yeah, you know, the levers to pull and the switches to turn, and da-da-da, and then you engage with 1,000 videos. There's 1,000 videos out there where everyone's making sense, and then I come to your channel and watch one of your videos, and you are, I forget how he said it, but like a, I don't know, maybe it's a Gaussian star spread. Basically, he said that I'm all over the map, or that I'm ricocheting, or he didn't use those terms, but something that's analogous to that. So yeah. Anyway, here I am today, another day. You know what I'm noticing? I'm noticing this shadow right here. Look at that big meaty shadow. You know, look at that big pig head, that big pig jaw of mine right there. Woo. Right, which is so weird. So I was explaining this 19-year-old, right, this young 19-year-old who I looked quite a bit like when I was 19, right, who had a very thin and slender, kind of that slender face. And I said, hey, you know what this fat head is? You get fat head. I call it pig head. You get pig head when you're older, right? You start laying on the fat because you chewed for so long, and you got this big pig muscle here and this big pig muscle here, and your jowls start to loosen up a tad. You got pig head. But anyway, so as there's these young people palling around in time, slowly developing, filling out their pig head. It's fun to watch the pig heads become pig heads. Oh, I better see if there's a comment thing going on. Let's see what's going on out in the boonies here. You on watch page? Is there a watch page? Oh yeah, where am I here? Oh yeah, okay, there I am. Let's see, nothing, something, maybe. Let's let it load. Oh look, there's Broken Narcissist. Do you think that anti-natalism is just a disposable maleness or a narrative to cuck people than them? Said sex, redemption, that broken narcissist. Yeah, you made a good funny out of you think that anti-natalism is just disposable maleness. Well, you know, some females are anti-natalist, some of them without their choice to be so. They just happen to. Anti-natalism isn't so much an attitude towards the world as it is a fact of your life in the world. Well, I don't have any kids, therefore, well, I guess it's more non-natalism. But in your case, or with your question, full maleness. Yeah, I mean, there's so many women holes and so many men holes, and or men shooters, and I don't know. I mean, granted, there's going to be a lot of men that aren't landing it, and they think to them, well, I could have landed it if I wanted to. I'm so super amazing. But yeah, so it's this promotion of what I was thinking is that anti-natalism was yeah, it was just this trend of like, it was almost like nobility extended into the modern age. Like, oh, here's my tribe and I must sacrifice myself. I'll be the one that doesn't have kids. Just watch me die. Just let me die. Let me be the expendable in the crowd. I will just function as the alongside I'll be consistent to my group and my tribe, but I'm going to be on the outside, giving myself over as the first line of defense. And that first line is to you know, like, if one looks at themselves as their genetic lineage, like you are all of your ancestors, and we are all humanity's brothers and sisters, you know, and you're part of the stem on a branch of a tree, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be a fruit. I want to be a leaf. I'm going to be a leaf. I'm going to be a leaf. I don't know. I mean, I think the whole thing is kind of kooky, to be honest. But I do like that. Yeah, disposable nailness to cuck people. you idiots who just had a small family or a large family. You stupids. You're living the most dumb lives. How dumb of you to have that family, you know. Every cradle is a grave. I heard that as some new title that some new anti-natalist author. Duh. You know, but you know, I still think if we are in a video game, the one caveat, right? Like Ernest Becker can do death denial, Schopenhauer can talk about this, we can all talk about suffering and sufferability, but the thing is that since I'm a supernaturalist, since I think there's more domains to the world and there's more difference amongst people psychologically and consciously than we want to grant, right? We want to grant a uniformity to consciousness, a uniformity to nature, a uniformity to things. And generally that seems fairly consistent, you know, a form of common language, right? A form of common language and common perception. But there's so many outliers, there's so much volatility in there. I think there's so much difference. And I think that the difference is echoed within the manifold, if you will, of the universe, such that perhaps if your thoughts trend in the universe and the universe responds to those thoughts in some respect, not in all respects, but in some respect, right? Then there might be something like the final generation of people that no longer experience suffering, unless it's, you know, I mean, a type of maybe existential suffering for not suffering. And there might be some sort of transhumanism, right? This kind of non-death, right? Where every grave is not, or every cradle is not a grave, you know, and that, oh, it turns out that not only, you know, everyone's saying, hey, this is Earth, we're indigenous to Earth, stay on Earth, Mars, right? But maybe we're already on the moon. You know, there's people that theorize, like, and I even suggest, I think, you know, maybe there's non-terrestrial other beings or other entities. I don't think that. Like, that was evidence to me, right? Whether or not they're sourced from this planet or another terrestrially is fine. As far as us humans, maybe there's people on the moon already. Maybe the deep state, the black ops, maybe we're already on Mars and we're just, you know, like we're getting fake news about the moon landing, and we're, you know, and so when somebody says, oh yeah, there's already colonies on the moon, China's been flying there for years, Elon Musk hasn't only been to Mars and back, he's, you know, he I don't know, it's this idea that that what you're fed as a media, a conglomerate media, you know, it's inconsistent with the community of public language and the, you know, would bring up like, oh, there'd be secrets and there'd be leaks to the secrets and blah, blah, blah. But even if there were leaks to the secrets, then there'd be people making videos about already having people on the moon and on Mars. And I think there is that, right? But maybe it's not a leak and it's probably just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and that for all utilitarian sake, and if you guys want to be my friend, you want to get along, don't say that kind of shit, right? But anyway, my thoughts are perhaps there are grays and there are greens, and there are reptilians, and we have been to other planets, and other people lived on Mars long ago, and there were rivers on Venus long ago, and blah, 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 blah. And these kids who aren't my kids are actually my descendants that came back in time so that I could draw them, because they thought that it'd be interesting to get the video game called Mike Spook to draw their great ancestor. To draw them was a good idea. And anyway, it's the idea that anything that is thinkable, is trivially absurd as it is, might have some possibility in it. You know. Anyway, I like to wax this way, even if, you know, like if my life was on the line, I wouldn't make these claims. Certainly wouldn't make these claims, but I would, nevertheless, you know, I would still make the orb claim and the red star claim and the communication, outbound communication, whether it's MK Ultra and it's some government thing and technology, or whether or not it's some, you know, PSYOP, you know, Alex Jones, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not, that's where my speculation is. My speculation is no longer that there's other physical entities in the universe. That's been evidenced to me. The idea of having your mind possessed or controlled, or allowing your mind to be controlled or heavily influenced, is already evidenced to me. I'm not gonna, you know, I'd argue with anyone like, hey, that's, you know, like I just wouldn't give up on that fact, you know, unless, you know, I was tortured by Amazon sex goddesses with pleasure, the anti-natalist nightmare, to suffer the idea that that we actually do have this whole positive realm, the very aesthetic realm, that the idea that there's not just like the ceasing of deprivation, but it's an aesthetic engagement. It's the ability to breathe in and breathe out. It's the ability to live in modern comforts compared to ancient comforts, because there were probably still plenty of comforts. Because if there weren't, you know, if what is it, the tears of man, if the tears against humanity were so huge against individuals, if suffering was so great, you know, there's been suicides throughout humanity. Even animals that can't take it anymore will fall over and die and allow prey to eat them, and they won't get up because they're done, right? So if that is the case, then everything is just this fucking hyperbole. It's a bunch of, it's like a club called, let's say that life sucks, and let's format a logic that says that it sucks so bad that X, Y, and Z, right? It sucks so bad that therefore I'm going to be the noble one, and I'll take some sort of evidence that, oh, the world's overpopulated, you know. The idea of, you know, I was in the park the other day, and I thought everything that is, and if you kept adding more of what is to the pile, then it still is in the pile. So even if it's consuming at a high rate, the idea that there's too much, it's, you know, it's not too much at the present, it's too much at a forecasted future trend line, right? So there's not too much, you know. And then the idea of the imposition argument, I thought, well, you know, I'm still with the idea of like, hey, I don't know. I mean, what to say? What to say about the imposition argument at this stage, right? Like, I went over the whole imposition. The imposition argument's dead, right? It's dead. Of my 6-frame video series, because I mean, I think the fundamental tenet to my argument was you have life, you know, that there is life, and then the aspects of life impose on the individual. Not that having the kid is an imposition itself, right? First, you have to be in order to be imposed upon. The act of being itself, right? You're not imposing life. You know, there is life. Here's the process. Use the human organism in trend. You know, and I think the whole idea is that people, first and foremost, want to somehow, idyllically, remove themselves from their body and from their organism. And really, it's not death denial that's the problem. It's organism denial. It's like they want to supplement and replace, co-opt their organism for idealism, right? It's a supplement for idealism. Fine, go ahead, argue it that way, right? Oh, it's ideal to not have kids because you imposed and now you got this suffering. I just cucked you, you dum-dum. Now look, I'm going to have the future of humanity in the genetic codes, and then you're not. Oh, by the way, I found out from my brother's 23andMe test, not that any of you asked, but that I have a higher amount of Neanderthal. Apparently everybody that's not, I don't know quite how they put it, but like the majority of people that are of a certain haploid descendants, I'm haploid 1U, or at least my brother is. I suppose I'm roughly the same, even though he says, well, there could still be great variety, and maybe you should get tested yourself, and maybe they're even covering up my alien genetics. But anyway, apparently my brother and probably I and my family have we have more, I think they said the average was 264 segments out of the 23 chromosomes, that there's an average of 264 segments per the average, you know, the current up-to-date stat on 23andMe members have 263 markers that are Neanderthal markers, and that my brother has 286. And so that probably puts me closer to the 286 level, which I thought was interesting, right? Because at one point, you know, saying, you caveman, you Neanderthal, it was a real put down. And then, you know, they say, well, hey, the majority of humans alive still have this remnant marker, unless you're like deep south, you know, southern African. And I guess this would, you know, in the Neanderthal area in Germany is this haploid, this supposed subspecies where the mixing was occurring. Hence the name Neanderthal was from the location, just like Caucasian from the Caucasus Mountains. Like, oh, that's so novel. Hey, where are we? We just found something amazing. Where are we? Oh yeah, let's name it after where we are. That's novel. I mean, maybe it's easy. You know, it's easy. Like, hey, you know, you got a problem calling this new fossil something, just name it after the city you're in, or, you know. Anyway, but the funny thing is, my brother always tells my niece, he grabs her and picks her up, and, you know, in a mocking of violence, and says, we are Klingon, we're Klingons. And I thought, boy, that's like Neanderthals. We're Neanderthals. And I mean, I'm 6'4", I'm broad-shouldered, I'm big-headed, I'm straight-haired, had red in my beard, you know, all these other traits that make me a viable candidate for any woman out there that wants a semi-crippled nonsensical, schizophrenic, alien-connected artist to have offspring with, just hit me up, and we'll arrange a ticket one way or the other for positive procreation processes. Thank you very much. Well, anyway, I'm certainly not concentrating on the dimensions here of the drawing because it's almost funner to ramble what's on my mind just a wee bit while we're here. And anyway, so with all that said, yeah. Any other questions, type them in the inbox, and I'll eventually turn around and get into it. In the meantime, I got to draw till my daddy takes my pencil away. Beep, 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 beep. Oh yeah, what to do, what to think even. My old documentary guy screwed me over all because he was really emotional about me dying, faking my own death, as if that's some reason to get mad at someone I was gonna do them a favor. Rake me over the coal. I raked him over the emotional coals for a mere 2 weeks. He justifies kicking the can down the road. Okay, so anyway, on to another topic. Now maybe on to another inflection of voice and storytelling. What next? Oh, I have an art show in Sugar House on Friday the 11th. I think that's the 11th of this month. And I have a reception up in Gillette, Wyoming. And Sugar House Artwork. And up in Gillette, Wyoming on the 18th. And I have a court date in Wyoming on the 24th. And Eric Orwell are the same players, the same influencers. Okay, I'm not going to talk about Eric Orwell this time, even though he had a video called "Are Women Property?" And I thought he was really just trying to justify some orthodoxy of women as chattel and the intelligent man needs to control things in the marriage and women are fractious. And just all these generalizations that seemed like it was just a reflection of his narcissism and a personal problem and not really like an objective description of like the best way for humanity to exist and the family unit to exist is to just give the man the power, the executive power, and we won't have any of this fractures, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so today I was watching this video on, and I'd watched it again a few years ago when I was trying it, but the remote viewing capability, and the guy doing the video, he says, hey, I worked for the military for 26 years. They were funding the project. They have all the science to back it up. Here's the case. Here's some examples, blah, 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 blah. And it was amazing, and I even tried some remote viewing tests, and I scored really, really well. I thought that my drawings were very, very uncannily, with the exception of one out of like 7 of them, were uncannily well matched to the digits that were there. And so it was good to listen to this guy again. Not that I wanted, like, if there's a reflective karmic universe, maybe I want to remote view something, but I don't want to make a habit out of it. He said, oh, it's a natural ability. They cover things up more. That just shines a spotlight on those trying to remote view what the data set is. And I'm not trying to get all wooey. I'm not trying to get all out of this world. I'm already there. I'm not trying to do anything. It just happens to be that I already am. And then the idea that, okay, so, I've studied Wittgenstein all through college. I still, to this day, argue with people about some of the basic tenets of Wittgenstein's philosophy. namely the meaning is use trend that's been going on since you know, I didn't pick it up. I swallowed it hook, line, and sinker in college also when I was studying Anti-natalism investigations, blue books and brown books and blah, blah, blah. And then there's this perpetuation, even by professors, to push the meaning is use idea, which has some merit, but even Wittgenstein does not stand holding fast and strong to this. And yet, and I wouldn't have known it unless this guy from college pointed out the exception within the philosophical investigations that was Wittgenstein himself stating that there's a class of cases or classes of cases that meaning is not use. And I brought that up 7-8 years ago when I first got on the tubes with Azri and I. Anyway, and I thought maybe I just need to make a video dedicated strictly to that. And probably part of my problem is I do these long, all over the map, multi-topic tirades, and I don't just have a basic summation. And even my very is now down to 3 viewers now, and woe is me, woe is me. People can only, you know, they can only handle so much, and then they want to click onto something that interests them. And if I don't interest them, then I don't fucking interest them. Who wants to listen to a psychopath that's part sociopath, that's part masochistic, ramble on about their views of anything? They don't need this. You guys have lives to live, right? You guys have a utility to get through in your day. Why ingest my line of bullshit? But the thing is I think there is this underclass of videos, and I think there's kind of the great hope that someday all of us longtime YouTubers that have less than like 20,000 subscribers, probably less than like 2,000 in most cases, will actually have some sort of emergence. That there'll be some sort of like popularity that, you know, a YouTube algorithm that'll kick in, and all of the chumpy YouTubers will have their heyday. Their dogs will have their day. And it will all be posted on the front page of, hey, look at these long, rambling, deep-thinking, sensical personalities that are way in the outer limits, and let's post them instead of fucking Philip DeFranco. And you know, the two major ones, outliers, I think, are still the Amazing Atheist and like Onision. They're like the kook jobs that did okay for themselves, kind of. Maybe those new algorithms are going to tank them. Nope, no more questions from the audience. Well then, fine. Fine. You guys will suffer a moment of silence. Not really. Not entirely. Okay, so, yeah, what to talk about? Inconsiderate people. There's this great thing. Maybe I'll post it underneath the video, but it's about the game theory of cooperation. I think when I watched it, they start out with 4 personality types, and they eventually have 8 personality types, and they run game theory on cheating or cooperation, and who wins in the short run, and to what degree, and who wins in the long run. And basically, the whole video is suggesting that in the short run, cheaters can get away with their cheats for a while, and then those who cooperate under a longer time frame will get along more. And those who are forgiving and cooperative, that are forgiving for a certain percentage of time, like they give over 1 or 2%, like if you're working with somebody, right, and like if you have a contract with someone, like a contractor, like, hey, build my house, right? And so you have a contract with a contractor, and they don't show up. you might get all pissed off and everything, and you might even rant and rave and say they violated the contract and just go batshit on them. Or you can, you can respond. You can just say, hey, they're forgiven and not worry about it. But there's some that they basically, like, if they're screwed over, they're going to screw over who just screwed them over, and they're going to mimic them. But then you got the people that if they get screwed over once, or 5% of the time, they'll forgive it and assume that some other aspect in the universe had that person, that the person wasn't trying to screw them over, so they're forgiving for about 5% of the time. And those people end up dominating in population over the cheats. This whole video game or not video, well, it was kind of a video game, but it was more of a lesson, was to suggest that people live now in greater isolation because there's actually greater distrust, because there's less communication. The whole thing was about, how do you communicate with people? And who are you communicating with? Are you communicating with a con man? Are you communicating with a cheat and a liar? Are you communicating with a copycat? Are you communicating with some giving altruistic person? Are you communicating with a detective who's exploring and trying to deduce everything? Oh boy, I got problems with this painting already. I'm painting this girl so hugely fat, and it's because I started the video. If I don't go silent for a minute, I'm gonna end up creating a troglodyte instead of this little infant girl with this extremely long arm. Boy, do I want to. Yeah, even when I do that, even when I compare it, boy, does she have this hugely amazingly long arm. Then I got her feet. Feet are huge. What have I done? What have I done? And obviously, her skull is smaller than the others, and I drew it so damn big. Just hate to have to erase that. Let's see, where is she compared to that? Nah, see, skull is right. Hey, oh, yeah, maybe she does need to step forward with one foot. How to do this, how to do this, how to do this. Videos on triangulation. Videos on triangulating drawings. I have to triangulate drawing. Anyway, so I have to go hang the rest of my art show here in a little while. And then today's Saturday, and then tomorrow I go out to the park for my weekly art sales and indulgences, and it's really my only time of week that I actually communicate with the public, unless I go to a tavern, I go out to eat with somebody or something. And I got 2 dates this week. Yeah, only one of them is perhaps a thingy, and the other one is a friendship thingy that kind of mimics a thingy that's not really a thingy. But yeah, that's the other thing. If you screw over your best friend, the universe might compensate a little bit. You got this Shanty for Christ lady. God can't is trying to this kooky nut bag. I mean, I can understand the appeal to Christendom and to religion and the cults and everything, but that the universe is going to feed back everything to you that you're thinking on. Of course, you'll get these theists that see sense and intelligent design and everything, because they're sensitive at this point to how the universe is confirming whatever it is they're thinking. And then the ones that have, like, oh, the great deceiver and the great liar and the great blah, blah, blah of the devil, it's because they feel like guilty or sinful, or they've done something that their conscience has a problem with. And I'm not saying that none of it isn't there, I'm just gonna say that the universe in some weird way seems to echo what it is you're thinking. That whole idea of like, well, if you think that you can or you think that you can't, correct. You're correct. You know, like what is that? Right? And I thought, you know, for the longest time, like who is pushing this shit? Right? Who's pushing this shit? And now I'm like, yeah, you know, I can relate. Right? Anyway, so I sit out in the park last Sunday and I was drinking for a while. Just had a 4-pack of beer. I normally had anywhere from a 6 to a 12-pack. I only had a 4-pack that day. It wasn't even specifically drunk. But boy, I had an attitude like a drunk because I kept getting my most common question asked is, did you paint all these? Or did you paint these? Yeah. Did you paint all these? Yeah. And then so some guy asked me that. He just, you know, just a regular, hey, did you paint these? And I mean, normally my response is, no, I ship them in from China. I'm just wholesaling them, right? I'll just say something fucked up like that until they realize that the question itself, even though I think it's just like an introductory question of engagement, you know, and it is probably a curiosity, but you know, I got snippy with the guy, like, you know, well, instead of saying, what do you think? I'm like, dude, you know, why are you even asking that? Like, why do you even ask that? Did I paint all this? What did, you know, and then and I should just throw it back. Well, what do you think? Do you think I painted them? You know, like how to start the engagement. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I don't want to come across like an asshole. But last week, at some point, I just didn't give a shit. And I got so tired of people asking me if I painted something. And I mean, in one way, if it's out of amazement, it's one thing, but it's kind of like and here, guys, if you ever go to a market, right, don't, you know, if you're trying to not buy something and be kind to somebody, don't say, hey, are you here all the time? Or are you going to be here next week? Right? The idea of like the implied future sale, the escape trajectory out of a sale, where people think that they're being clever. Like, oh, well, I really, you know, I didn't want to buy anything. I'm just not going to let the guy think that I wasn't interested. So of course I'll just ask him if he's here next week, and then, you know, some people say that and they actually do show up next week, but for the most part it's just an escape technique of buyers, and it's, you know, it's old shit, and anyone that's sold in public knows the lines. And yeah, I'm even guilty, even after I knew it, of saying it to someone because I knew that they knew, saying shit because they didn't want to buy it. Anyway, long, blah, 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 blah. Little town in western Pennsylvania. You know, in that small little town in western Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, so a bit of the universe, you know, the comment I think was that I was referencing, you know, I used to reference a lot of movies, and then I was referencing quotes in books and certain other things, and then I'm just free forming, and then of course in my own mind I'm skipping topics all over. So you know, it's like, hey, if you can't keep up, if you can't keep up with the kitchen in my mind, if the heat's too hot, get out. You know, it's like, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm not in dialogue. If someone would actually join the damn room and hang with me, and my whole conversation wouldn't be like me trying to run shit off the top of my head trying to figure it out. So I rarely, if ever, take over-the-counter pain medication. And but yesterday I was like, hey, here's some Tylenol. Maybe I'll just take a couple. I was kind of achy, and I don't know. I kind of get tired of drinking alcohol. I really do, you know. And I'm not getting back on opioids. I'm on a semi-probation because of my arrests. I didn't want to get busted for any other types of intoxicants, but yeah, take some Tylenol. sometimes, I mean, the last time I did that, it really, really worked out great. I think if you take Tylenol once every 3 years, it has a pretty good effect. If you take it more often than that, oh yeah. What was that? Anyway, so you can think that the universe, isn't in your favor, or you can think the universe is in your favor. Try to work with how the universe is in your favor. You try to ponder it and then try to curtail it, control it. I must control the universe. I must control anything within my capability that I want to control. I don't want to go slacky. For a while you want to just go slacky. Anyway, so last week I was looking at all my art, and I was looking at how broken my body was, and how drippy a lot of my art is. Like, a lot of it is not upstanding art. It's very like drippy, flesh falling off the skin sort of art. And I kind of had this like, wow, I really sort of am not liking my art. Like, I'm not liking what's coming out, and not in a spooky sense, in a why am I promulgating this ongoing drip, 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 this, like, everything's bent, everything's curvy, there's only round edges, there's not a lot of square upstanding, kick a kickstand up my ass and make my spine straight, sort of Iron Man superhero bullshit that even the 3D art is controlled to. Like, hey, let's have battleships fighting. Let's do exact replicas of old battleships. That'll be exciting. And maybe it is. Maybe it is exciting. But even, like, there's not a lot of wonkiness being spilled out of even Pixar. Even their creative stuff is very discrete outlines. They're not very vague. There's nothing in modern art. That's why there's nothing in modern art that's really quite surreal. Even the monsters are pretty discreet in video games and everything. And, I mean, if you look at superheroes and X-Men, like, it's really neat. Oh, look, that guy busted into a cloud of smoke and reappeared behind that other guy. And isn't that neat? It kind of suspended my sense of disbelief. But then why not just every now and again have, like, maybe some of the, I don't know, like, have some of the mistakes, digital mistakes, to go into the finished product, right? Like, throw in purposeful glitches, or generate something that's a little, unclear, that's not representative of our regular scope of seeing things, but it's an expression of imagination, not just. I mean, it's hard to speak on, right? It's just like, if you look at a Pixar movie, it's it's like, I don't know, all the edges, the outlines of every creature, of every individual, are still just, they're discrete outlines. They're hard outlines. They're not soft outlines. It's like the bodies all have structure and frame, and that this character is only going to work within this frame. You take the Incredibles. Oh, okay, that one's going to stretch in this way and that way, but their head's not just going to fall off. It's not. I don't know. And there's like the Rick and Morty and the existential crisis, blah 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 blah, and the promotion of, hey, this is the way life is, and blah 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 blah. There is a lot of sorrow out there. Don't get me wrong. People are dying. This lady I've known when I was working at eBay, just got in touch with her, and her brother just died, and she's only, I guess he was in his late 30s, and she said it just crippled her. Just fucking put her in stasis. And you know, I don't deal with death well when it happens. I don't like it. I don't deal with it well. Other people, they deal with it much better. And, I think it's, you know, it is. I haven't had a lot of it happen to me lately, but I've been, you know, vicariously dealing with people who have died or who have had loved ones that died. Not dealing with them, and it's shit. It's a hard pill, and it's rough, and it's crippling, and it's heartbreaking in a lot of cases, and it's relieving in other cases to some people. It relieves them, and not in just necessarily the I'm glad they're out of their suffering because they were suffering bullshit. It's not that kind of relief. I mean, I'm not saying it's not that kind of relief, but the kind of relief I'm talking about is more specifically like, hey, this person in my life was in a way kind of like a paperweight or a stamp or an anchor that was getting in my way, but I was obligated to them. And now that they're no longer there, there's kind of this release. There's kind of this freedom from, and it's nothing against the person that died. You can tell there's still, you know, plenty of reasons why they're not celebrating the death. They notice that somehow their being gone frees them in some way that prior to maybe they didn't even know they were bounded to it. But relationships are often binding. You'll bind to a lot of relationships. Anyway, thanks for being down to the one viewer. Wisdom from down under. Down under I'm talking about is Mexico. I used to gripe at my dad who spent 2 years in Japan and he didn't learn Japanese, and I was like complaining like, "Wow, you spent all that time there and you didn't learn Japanese. Why not, Dad? Why not? God, this is so weird that you wouldn't do that." And here I've lived in this complex for about, well, I bought it 11 years ago, but I've lived here for probably like 9 of the years. I still don't speak Spanish. Almost all of my neighbors are Mexican and they speak Spanish. I don't know. Maybe under great pressure, my mega memory will jump up and I'll know Spanish and the meaning of this song will come to mind. And this is probably a very, very sad Spanish song, and they're not just singing about, you know, roses and tinfoil hats that people wear on romantic dates at the, eating carne asada. I mean, maybe it's a food ad song. Maybe this is an advertisement for chicken. Didn't hear him say El Polo. Still. Okay, so definitely a different type of video than last time, kind of. Oh. And why did I do that commercial interruption? So I'm out of coffee filters, and I had a little bit of instant coffee left. I think I have like less than half a teaspoon. So I'm probably going to drag whoever watches this, because boy, oh boy, you know, oh, and always play my videos at 0.15 speed, or at least 0.25 speed. You know, I mean, people talk too slow. If you don't have a fast talker, what's the point, right? I'm not Ben Shapiro. You don't need to slow me down. I mean, that guy's just jacked up on being jacked up. He's jacked up on, like, Gatling gunning everybody with his thoughts, you know, and doing it as quickly as possible. And I guess there's some benefit in that, especially if you're a lawyer. You want to be fast talking kind of, okay, I'm fast talking. I'm a lawyer. I don't know. And maybe people talk too slowly these days anyway. Maybe I'm talking too slowly. I'm probably talking too slowly. I'm just not certain where my topics are. I'm thinking more in terms of outline and spatial relations and how much can I distort this thin kid into, so she doesn't look like a fat kid. She's kind of chunky. She's a little baby, kind of still kind of an infant, a small child. She's just not, I don't know, the clothes lay so weird on her. You have to, you know, sometimes you just have to fudge a piece. A happy little fold there. Thin her up a tad. Work on some aesthetics. Great. Now instead of a philosophy video, it's a drawing video, folks. You guys get to learn what illustrators go through. I'll be dipped in buttermilk. I tell you, I can't believe that, you know, my illustration career went from in-house, you know, graduation, in-house illustrator, to next to no freelance work, next to none in my career, to missing video game art, video game production, great loss in life for me, and then to fine art, to pulp fine art. Shouldn't even call it fine art. Buenas gracias, buenos días. Y arriba y arriba. Okay, so what do we have here? Number 1, kill number 2, kill number 3, kill number 4, kill number 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know what? You know what I just realized? I think the one viewer now is me. I think I'm the only viewer. Since I opened that window, at least I got a thumbs up. Someone gave me a thumbs up. Can you believe that? The nerve of that asshole gave me a thumbs up. How dare you? How dare you give me a thumbs up? What a prick. Just because that's so trendy. You like something, you give it a thumbs up. Yeah. God, the world. What's it come to? It's so pithy. So not necessary. Okay, so anyway, how long have I been going? Probably some time. Probably some long time. Probably time that I end this video. And then I maybe start another hang. Maybe I'll start another hang. And this time I will argue with somebody. I will argue philosophy. Not stupid like amendum type of philosophy. Not that kind of dumb philosophy. I mean regular, like the propositional logicists or the scientists or the, you know, a phenomenological argument against ontology or some language philosophy argument. You know, something that philosophers like to argue and not just some sort of reiterated rant, retranslated over years that everyone's already heard. They don't want somebody like barking down their throat that same old shit. Like, look, I read your book once. I watched your video once. I don't need any more of that. None, please. None. I'll take none of that for my dessert, please. No, I don't know. Fuck it. Gary or anyone wanted to jump in. Shit. Maybe even Karen. Maybe even conference support. Maybe even Aunt. Maybe even Andrew and I. Church of Dave just got to the hospital. There's no way he's watching, man. There's just no way. And if he was, there's no way he'd join. He just wouldn't. Bubonic Nick hates me because for whatever stony baloney reason, I thought his wife was hitting on me. And again, I think things are what people are doing, and they're not doing it. Or if they are doing it, they're not consciously aware that they're doing it. Or if they are consciously aware that they're doing it, but they got a game. There's some sort of game behind it. It's game, other type of game theory. A theory of games. Romantic theory of games. Okay, 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 okay. Oh, so he's hanging my art. And I know this illustrator guy. He's about a decade older than I am, and he's like a human Xerox machine. He's totally a human Xerox machine with his color and everything. He's absolutely an amazing illustrator, and he does wildlife. He does like lizards and hippos and snails and just stuff. He's like a biology buff, and he learned to draw without going to art school. He's just absolutely stunning with his art, but he's a human Xerox machine. So I'm here hanging my clown crabs and my beating death at his own game and these other like, I don't know, I think they're imaginative ideas that don't exist in the real world in any respect. Xerox machine capabilities, right? Other than lighting or something. And here's this guy saying, "Oh yeah, I went to school with Carl, and yeah, he's really great." And then he kind of looks at mine like, "Yeah, this is kind of interesting." And he walks out, and I'm thinking, like, hey, here's. I don't go into a place and see a bunch of art and then ask the artist if they know somebody who I also like, just to, in a way, like be smug and try to defame that artist. And it's like, okay, and the artist himself I know, and he totally defends my art. It was so weird. I actually had this ex-girlfriend who at one time, same woman that tried to get me in a knife fight with her husband, and at one time she asked this Carol guy if he thought that I was a real artist. Like, is Mike even a real artist? Like, what, he's not a, what's going on? And he said, yeah, good, totally. Just, he's working in the psychological realm. But, somehow getting that from him, oh, well, in that case, fine, I'll just, fine. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking. I don't even know I'm recording this now. Okay. 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 All right. All right. All right. Um, I don't know. I only have so much drawing in me each day. All I know is this painting has to be done by Christmas, and it would kind of be nice to finish it, before then. And so I hope to do that. Yeah, but each day I don't want to sit down all day every day and try to just knock this out. I mean, the heat might come on, I might be too slow, and eventually I'll have to spend hours and hours and hours and hours. But in this case, no, I won't do that. No, I just simply won't. I will get a little bit done each day. I thought, hey, I'm working on a new project, so maybe record my thoughts, maybe do a hangout. But all of my hangouts last year, I don't know. Maybe I promoted them. I think I dropped the link. Where this one, I don't even drop the link. I just start, and the few viewers that I have that come trickling in, they can watch me for a little while, and then blah 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 blah. Skibbly dibbly 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 boop boop bada boop boop bada boom. Boom boom bada boom boom bada boom. Hey, big sis. Big sis of three sisses. Hey, middle sis. Hey, two middle sisters of four sisters. What do you want about there, little ladies? Huh, ladies? Anyway, anywho, yeah. I'll show you incredible things. Wicked. I know how to break the rules. I Okay, I'll spare you guys and quit it. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate you watching. I do appreciate you, Mike. Me, the guy talking to himself. Yeah, yeah, man, right there. You're like a brother to me, me. You're like a brother to me, me. You don't get closer than that. You don't even get close. Yeah, I love you more than a brother. You're me. No, brother. Get your me. Shut up. Ow. That just gave me a migraine.